What are the biggest mistakes that a master printer sees from people trying to get prints from their digital files, whether it be from a camera or a smartphone? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 of the biggest mistakes I've seen in 2024 for people trying to get prints from their digital cameras and how you cannot have the same problems that these people are having. So let's get started. But before we get started, who am I? Why do I know so much about photography? Well, my name is Mike Patterson. I've been a professional full-time photographer located here in Western Canada for over 39 years. I make my living exclusively from photography. In addition to doing photography, I also own and operate a full-service photo lab, and I print for people from across North America who are beginners to experts. And I see a lot of the mistakes that people make when getting files printed. So let's get into the 5, and if you know me, I may be tossing a few extra as we go. 5 things that I see that are the biggest problems and how you can fix them. All right, number 1, the biggest one, and by far it blows everything else out the water, and that is file size is too small for getting printed. Now, we're shooting with 20, 30, 50 megapixel cameras, whether it be a digital camera, a mirrorless camera, DSLR, or whether it be a smartphone. We're getting these massive file sizes. And then what do? Well, we send them to our clients, or we send them to family members, or we send them to whomever, and the files are tiny. Why? Because a lot of times we text them, and texting just downsizes your image size, or we email them. And when we email them, we're emailing them and the files are being reduced in size. And it's a big reduction. It's a huge reduction in size. We have to start making sure that we get the original files when we're printing. If we're sharing files, share them through Google Drive, share them through Dropbox, share them through an email, but tell the email not to downsize it. Now, here's the biggest problem that I see, and it's usually not the first person that sends it. It's usually the second or the third or the fourth. And I get a lot of families that come in to have pictures done. They paid a professional photographer some good money for the pictures, and then one person downloads the pictures and then starts emailing the pictures out, and then that person emails them to somebody else, and by the time they get to me, they're downsized to thumbnails. So share them at full size. Put them on a sharing site. Download the pictures at full resolution and stop emailing and texting. Only by doing that will you get the best images possible, because there's nothing that can be done, no matter how good of the camera. You just can't do anything once the files are downsized. Even using these upsizing programs, it's just not as good as having good quality pictures to begin with. All right, I'm done. Number 2, and this has to be one of the most frustrating ones. Stop the bizarre cropping of your files. I get pictures in that are the dimensions of a piece of spaghetti. They're long and they're skinny, and then the person comes in and says, "Can I have this printed square?" No, you can't. It's been cropped horribly. You can't get it printed square because it's going to destroy it. So stop cropping our images. Just don't crop them. Keep them the full size that they are. Do your editing, do your retouching, do your work on them, and then save them the full image. If you want to crop them down, keep the full size file. So if your client doesn't like the cropping, they can go back to the full size file. Give your client both of the crops, the full size and the crop ones. Perfect example. The other day, a client came in here. They wanted a print. They wanted an 11 by 14. And we could not, in any way, shape, or form, crop the file to 11 by 14 without cutting somebody off the way it was shot. We actually ended up adding sky to it. 2 days later, they bring me in the full-size resolution file, and there's tons of sky. It would have been so easy not to have to add sky to the picture. People, stop cropping your files to bizarre sizes. Now, what happens if you're an artist? What happens if you're a nature or wildlife photographer and you want to do specific sizes for a gallery? Great, do that, but keep the original file. Another issue I had this year. A local photographer who's quite well known was doing a gallery show. They cropped some really interesting proportions. Some of their work was square, some of their work was very panoramic, and they did up these prints and they took them to the show and they sold. But one of their prints, one of the people came into the gallery and saw it and they fell in love with it, but the proportion didn't work for where they wanted it. And this person had already cropped the image to that size and they got rid of the original. It was so sad because they could have made a massive sale, but they got rid of the original crop. So take your picture, do the editing on the full-size file without cropping it, and then crop it, but keep both of them so that you can give your client both, or if somebody wants a different size, you can get both. The other thing, and this is a toss and a little freebie here, stop cropping in so tight to your subjects so that when people have them printed, when they're put into a frame, some of the subject is cut off. Leave some what's called bleed room around it, because I see this often as well. That photographer took a picture, there was extra space, but they went in and they cropped really tight, and then the person gets it printed. Then they put it behind a mat, and then there's some people cut off, part of a face or something is cut off. So leave extra space around it. All right, number 3, well, technically number 4, but number 3. Watch your color corrections. If you're not using a balanced monitor, which has been specifically calibrated, be careful with your color corrections. I get Smurfs constantly sent to me for printing that are bluer than blue, and they're not supposed to be blue. People have color corrected because their monitor was on the warm side, so they made the prints bluer, and then they send them to me, and they're bluer than blue. The problem is they've done this, they've saved it, there's no adjustment layer or nothing, and now we're struggling to get the pictures back to look natural. Sometimes they go in and they correct the highlights or the midtones or the shadows, and then they do the opposite on the other end, and there's nothing I can do to get it back to look normal. If you're going to color correct an image in any way, shape, or form, and I've said this in so many of my videos, correct it using an adjustment layer and then save it in Photoshop format. So if the person has a problem getting it printed, or you have a problem getting it printed, you can go back in and you can use the original file just by getting rid of the adjustment layer. It makes so much more sense. It's sad to see it. Purple grass is just horrible. Mountains that are on the reddish, bluish side, and they look like somebody threw up on them. It's sad, and I'm trying to fix this because the people don't like the color when they see it on a color-corrected monitor or when they see it on prints. So make sure you're using a color-corrected monitor. Another bonus point, stop correcting it online on your phones. Your phones are not color balanced in any way, shape, or form. And the problem is doing it that way is a lot of people, when they color correct like that, save only the corrected version, and it's already messed up. So stop correcting on your phone. Correct on your computer. If you don't know if it's corrected, if you're thinking of correcting it, bring it into your printer and have them do the corrections for you. Some charge a little bit for this. Myself, I don't. But bring it in and have your printer correct it. All right, the next one. And this is similar to the previous one, but it's as bad or sometimes worse. And that is, stop lightening or darkening the pictures excessively. I know that you have an artistic look, but come on, people. It looks horrible when you come in and there's no detail in the blacks or the shadows, and there's no details in the whites because you've pulled the levels or you've used curves or you've done whatever to try to make it look more artsy. But the customer doesn't like it, or you come in and you don't like it and you go, wow, I thought there was more detail on my computer. No, if your monitor isn't balanced, there won't be more detail there. You've blown it out. Again, if you're going to correct it for a look, use an adjustment layer. And another bonus one is, if you're buying plugins to adjust your colors, make sure you're not applying the color all the way through the picture so that you can't go back to the original, or that you're at least saving the original. I get it so often where people have applied a filter. They come in, they look at it and they go, ooh, that's kind of ugly. It looked better on my phone. Yes, it does. So stop doing it. Keep your originals. Keep adjustment layers. Save it in Photoshop format so we can pull those layers off or adjust them accordingly. All right, and the last one, I know this is probably number 6 or number 7 by now, but stop trying to crop to the old sizes. 4x5s, 5 by 7s, 8 by 10s, 11 by 14s, 16 by 20s. There's more sizes out there than that. And I, again, get people in constantly that are saying, can you make an 8 by 10 of this? Well, I can, but you're going to lose 3 family members. Can you make a 4 by 5 of this? Well, why do you want a 4 by 5? Photo albums are 4 by 6s. Most people get 4 by 6s. Oh, really? Oh, well, I've always got 4 by 5s from back in the medium format days. We have different sizes. So again, crop them to the different sizes so that you're not destroying the pictures, so you're not trying to fit them in different frames. Now, another bonus here. If you're printing for yourself, if you're printing for anybody and they want to put it in a frame, have them get the frame first and then size the picture accordingly to the frame. Stop printing pictures off and then try to find frames for it, because it can be very expensive to get a custom frame made. Again, an example. The other day, somebody came into the studio. They wanted a 14 by 24 print. I says, it's going to be hard to find a frame for that. Oh, yeah, just don't worry about it. Yeah, 14 by 24. We cropped off some of the sky. We printed it as a 14 by 24. We mounted it. We laminated it. It looked beautiful. They took it to get it framed, and it was $600 for the frame. If they would have went with a 16 by 24, they had them in stock that they could have bought for $40. So watch your frame sizes and make sure that you're printing to what the frames are going to fit and that the frames are going to fit what you're printing. All right, I know it's a lot of stuff to think about, but please think about it. Now, if you get stuff printed, put down below how you like to print it, what sizes that you print in, and where you get your stuff printed from. I always like to hear that. So until next time, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Get out there, take some amazing pictures, and get them printed. Bye-bye now.